Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast. I am your host, Trevor Page. Big apologies for the technical issues we've been having over the last little while. It's just one of those things, software is software the way it is. And you'd think a computer technician like myself would not have those kind of things. It's kind of like saying a plumber's going to have plumbing problems in his house. So I apologize. We've got it sorted out finally. The streaming is working. The sound is working. We're all good. So before we begin, I just want to say this podcast is brought to you by Duliban Insurance Brokers. Duliban has developed a unique discounted group insurance product for all electric vehicle owners, including Tesla owners and the recent lease of the Model 3. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and this is Canada specific here in Ontario, and you're looking for the best price and coverage on your Tesla, give Duliban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit their website at Duliban Insurance. That's spelled Duliban insurance.com/Tesla. Big thanks to our sponsors at Duliban Insurance. So without further ado, let's bring in our guests here. I want to welcome Eric Camacho and Michael Bodner and Mr. Ian Pavelko to the show as regulars. Hey guys, thanks for coming in again.
Hello.
Well, this is a week of Autopilot. There's been a lot of things happening with Autopilot, of course. So let's, without further ado, let's just dig in here. Now, I'm sure most of you probably done some Autopilot updates on your cars. So the latest firmware, at least on mine, is 2018.24.1 or something to that effect. Some of the big changes, of course, in the Autopilot interface, really in the binnacle, of course, and on that first third screen of the Model 3 is more of a return to what Autopilot used to look like on version 1 of the cars, where it showed you more cars in your surrounding area. It seems to be much more aware. Whereas previously on Autopilot 2, you might see a couple cars, and of course when you locked onto your Autopilot, it would lock onto the car in front of you, and then you wouldn't see any of the rest of the cars. So that's a big update. Matter of fact, I took a picture and I posted it online, and I counted, not that particular picture, but other ones. I counted up to about 12 to 13 cars all at once. So big improvement. Of course, unlike Autopilot 1, we don't see any motorcycles or trucks. So I think that's probably coming a later software update. So It's going to be interesting there. I did notice, though, when I'm driving beside a semi-truck, that sometimes it registers as 3 cars. so, so it's a little weird as going by. Eric and Mike, what is your opinion and experience with the latest software update?
I think it's been fantastic. It certainly is a welcome reprieve from what people have been using Autopilot for some time have seen, which is now you really have a greater view of what the road is like without having to use your mirrors much. What I do find interesting is that and I'm sure this will probably come over time, is that the update will show when a truck is there versus a car versus a motorcycle. Right now it just shows an object, but it's good because you do, like you said, I've seen easily the icons going from right lane to my lane or left lane to my lane. So it's just a greater overall view of what's actually happening in front of the car. And I think it's something that, again, will just continue to get better, but it's a huge difference in the month I've had, actually a month and a half, 2 months now I've had the car.
What's your opinion, Mike? You done any testing?
I have done some testing. So on the Model 3, the version's 21.9, I believe. The next one should be 24 plus, but specific to Autopilot, a couple of things that I've noticed. First of all, it doesn't seem to switch lanes with a car in the blind spot at all. It used to do that before. It wasn't mentioned as one of the improvements, but I've noticed that. So that's obviously really good. My first impression was, wow, that's a lot of cars on the screen on the left 1/3. But then a couple of days went by and I realized not a big deal. And I do, like Eric just described, I like seeing all the detail. The other thing that I really like, and Trev, you did a video on this in your X, and it works just the same in the 3, is the highway on-ramp, off-ramp, specifically the off-ramp. It's really fantastic. Before this update, I found that anytime I would hit traffic, I would quickly use the right scroll wheel to drop 5 miles an hour at a time to kind of preemptively slow down so that I wouldn't have a harder braking. And sure enough, the car does what I was doing manually automatically now. So I really like it.
Yeah. The one thing that I noticed, of course, is that previously my car would freak out. If you were in the lane and you're trying to take the exit and, it would just barrel through that off-ramp. And it was just like, okay, well, you just get in the habit of actually not using it. But now, as long as you're in a fairly, far lane and there's not a lot of cars around, It seems to behave, a lot better, of course, and it does actually slow down as you're going around the curve. However, you do have to disengage because it has no ability to stop yet, because the autopilot system is not recognizing street lights or stop signs or anything like that. If it does see a car in course in front of you, the traffic aware cruise control does its thing, so that's fine that ways. Now, as far as the blind spot thing of switching lanes, mine seems to be pretty much the same. As long as it actually sees a lane beside me. So, of course, if you're up against a curb or an embankment or something like that, it won't switch lanes. Cars in that lane, it seems to, as long as it sees that it's clear, it will switch. So, so far, very happy with it. There are a couple things, though, of course, that are still not present yet. Well, maybe, actually, you know what? I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about this issue of the nag screen. Because I've talked to some owners who have had Autopilot 1 cars, and the general consensus is that the nags would be about 3 minutes, and Autopilot 2, up until the recent software update, was about a minute, and I kind of timed it that way. Now we're down to about 30 seconds. So it's not as bad as I did drive another car that had something like that. It was the Nissan Leaf with ProPilot, and that's about 10 seconds. I found that just too much, almost, in my opinion, a little bit unusable. It's just too much nagging. Now, I've since gotten used to the 30-second thing. Now I just keep a light touch on there. Of course, we're just waiting for this latest software update to come through where Tesla is clarifying, I think, how to hold the steering wheel. Because it seems to be a lot of confusion. Everybody's freaking out over this fact that you've got to hold the steering wheel, but now all it takes is a little jitter and stuff. And that's kind of my behavior, what I was doing before. I would prefer it. I got used to the 1 minute thing. I don't mind the 1 minute thing. I would rather go back to 1 minute, but I think Elon is, and maybe the lawyers probably got involved and said, look, we got to do something about that. How do you guys feel about the nag situation right now? Are you kind of dealing with it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, for me, it's not a problem, because I know that a number of us drive a certain way where our left arm is sort of resting palm side up on our left leg, as the steering wheel is pretty close to where your leg rests. And I think for a lot of drivers, it's pretty good. For me, I also think it's good to have granted, 10 seconds is actually very, very short, as you pointed out with Nissan. But 30 seconds is good because you're also not having a driver building complacency. That we've seen a lot of other drivers experience with Autopilot when they're, I've seen this on test drives with some people too, where they're like, I'm just going to get my hands off the steering wheel. We've seen a lot of YouTube videos where all of a sudden their hands are just off the steering wheel. I'm like, no, you got to keep your hands on. So I think having it at 30 seconds is sort of a nice foundation for everybody, because it doesn't give you a lot of time. Like if you have to quickly grab something from your glove box or something like that, where you're still able to see the road, it works. But I think I think it's just kind of like that Goldilocks zone of being just right. But yeah, as long as there's a little bit of a wiggle, as long as the steering wheel is moving a little bit, and I think even you shared a story the other day about the government basically banning those weights that were going on the steering wheels.
Yeah,
you can also talk about that too.
Yeah, the thing called Autopilot Buddy. When I saw that product, I was like, man, there's a lawsuit just waiting to happen right there. And of course, NHTSA in the U.S. has finally chimed in and says, okay, that's it, game's over, guys. So apparently, they sent a cease and desist, and they have a cutoff date. So apparently, they've jacked the price up another $20 until the cutoff date. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I will say this, and I think Tesla's right, and some other people have said this, that the people that are actually more comfortable with Autopilot are the ones that actually get into more trouble because they trust it more than beginners. I've taken people for rides in my car and shown them the Autopilot and let them drive the car. And the trepidation, of course, right at first is just like, it's palpable for sure. But as you get more comfortable and you trust the system, you learn to, stretch its limits a little bit. So I understand the nag thing, but I don't have a problem with 1 minute. At half a minute, it's like, okay, if you really want to let go of the steering wheel, even though you have no occlusions around you, there's no cars, maybe it's a bit much. But you know what? The other day I just decided, you know what? What's this like? I mean, if I just put my hand on the steering wheel, what's it going to do? And you know what? After a couple seconds, you just kind of forget about it. You just kind of leave it there, and it works fine. So maybe that'll be my behavior going forward. So we'll see.
Yeah, Trev, I would say I basically do the same thing as Eric. The only difference is I rest my hand palm side down. So it kind of grabs the steering wheel in a comfortable position, always keeps a little resistance on it, and I never get the nag. My opinion, because you just said it really well, is the longer you have the car, the more complacent you get. And those are the people who are in risk of having autopilot accidents. It's usually not the brand new driver. 30 seconds keeps me honest. And like I said, I actually never see the nag message because I'm always applying a little bit of weight, and it's not any less of a convenience feature because my arm's just resting on my leg anyway. A minute probably still all right, but again, it keeps me honest. A little too much time, and you might start fumbling around for a phone, doing a text message. We shouldn't be doing that stuff while we're driving. It's not full self-driving yet, so I'm generally okay with it. 30 seconds or a minute. Realistically, our hands should be on the wheel, so it technically shouldn't matter. Just long enough to take your hands off to flip a radio station or turn on a single swipe of the wipers.
Yeah, I saw that. You was it a picture you posted, or was it in your video where you showed your resting position with your hand, I think just on your knee, right? And you're just kind of holding it?
Yeah, I posted a picture of how I used to before the improved nag, if you will. So just a minor adjustment, but still comfortable, and literally never see the nag message.
Yeah, the seating position in my car doesn't allow for that. The X is much more upright, so you can't, I mean, unless you just take your foot off the dead pedal and move your foot, way up close to you and kind of did one of these things. So I just find just the weight of my hand and, in that lower 7 o'clock position, 8 o'clock position is just enough torque just to keep it at bay. So, right. Ian, you're awfully quiet.
Well, I can't add a whole lot to this conversation right now because I got no autopilot.
Well, that's okay.
If you can hang on another 2.5 months, I will be able to give you some useful insights because I just booked a flight to San Francisco for the first week of September, and I'm going down to visit my friend Fred, who you went for a little flight with him last year when you were down there.
Say hi to him for me.
I will do that, and while I'm there, I'm going to grab a Model 3 for a couple of days and hit the desert.
Oh, very cool. Awesome.
So, yeah, I'll come back with some observations, some video, whatever all else, because at this point, I don't have any hope that I'm going to see my car before then. I have to so I'm going to get myself a fix.
Yeah, I hear you.
You can live vicariously through us.
That's exactly what I'm doing in this moment.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving along here, I just want to talk about the second part of Enhanced Autopilot because Elon sent us out a tweet, of course, and he said that he basically said to date, the autopilot resources have been rightly focused entirely on safety, but with version 9, which is supposed to be coming out around about August, that's Tesla Elon time, of course, we should be seeing beginning of the enabling of the full self-driving features. So that's kind of interesting that they're going to start doing that, considering the fact that all of us with an enhanced autopilot are still waiting for a couple more features, right? If you look at the autopilot page, we're still waiting on the on-ramp and off-ramp. So we got off-ramp, but we still don't have on-ramp yet? Is that true? No.
So, Trev, would you say we officially have off-ramp? Because the car won't actually take the exit. You've got to almost disengage autopilot, put it in traffic-aware cruise control to get into the off-ramp.
Yeah. We should clarify this. At this point, it's still the baby steps at this point because we can take the off-ramp while you're cruising along, but it's not the automatic one that they've promised on the site, which is basically type in the navigation and it will kind of follow the off-ramp and do switchbacks and so on and so forth. We haven't seen that yet. So yeah, we're still waiting for that. And the other one is Enhanced Summon, which is, of course, Summon just allows you to take the car in and out of a parking space. But if you look at the Tesla's Autopilot page, by the way, if you're following online, it's tesla.com/autopilot. And you can see, if you scroll down the page a little bit, you'll see some of the features. And one of them is, of course, as I said, Smart Summon, which is allowing the car, I think at this point on private property, we'll see, that allows the car to navigate around objects and around houses, maybe other cars, whatever, to to navigate its environment. And I don't think it's the one I would really like to see is full park seek mode, right? Where you get out of the car, press the button, let the car go find its own parking space, or meet you at a restaurant. I don't think Tesla's been very clear on that functionality, whether that's EAP or that's FSD. We just don't know at this point. But at this point, we're still waiting. So this tweet leads me to believe that we're looking at the beginnings of some of the stuff for full self-driving, but I'm hoping that part of that is some of the upgrades to enhanced autopilot for the stuff that's been promised. You know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Now, Trev, we do have good news. Our first forum member did get the 2018.24 update last night, and Summon appeared in his app.
Yeah, I did tweet that out because we already had some of that information that's spreading out. For those of you who are not aware, there is a website, and during my live test earlier today, one of my Twitter followers, Matt Abadia, reminded everyone that there's a website called ev-fw.com. That's EV firmware. That's just a short version. And what it does is it tracks all the firmware releases on Teslas, including what cars it's been seen on and how many people have reported it. Now, you have to be a member of the site. You have to sign in. You have to sign up your Tesla token, or you can just report it manually, of course. But if you want, you can tie it to your Tesla account. So as you get software updates, it automatically gets reported to the site. So for those of you who are interested in following the firmware saga, you can take a look at that website. So just an FYI for people out there looking at that. So Autopilot, very exciting times, I think. We've definitely seen some big upgrades. Like March was the first one where we got, the big update as far as reliability, or as what people call the confidence update. And now we've got the user interface. Now, Elon did say that version 9 of the software would really come with a user interface upgrade, but mostly on the Autopilot side, I believe. I think that's what he said in the tweet. It wasn't going to be, I don't think, a user interface overhaul on the main screens, just mostly for Autopilot. I think somebody else was asking about the possibility of being able to see behind the car. So maybe having the Autopilot display of the car up a little bit forward so that we could actually see cars coming up behind us. That would be very handy for things like blind spot monitoring that everybody's belly aching about not having on the Teslas. So I'm looking forward to some of that stuff. Right.
Do you also want to get into the tweet from Lexi about some improvements for Autopilot that Elon said might be in the pipeline?
Well, please go ahead.
So if you don't follow her on Twitter, she is Lexi Heft. I want to get this right. It's Lexiheft. And she had tweeted to Elon Musk and Tesla that she was thrilled about some of the stuff about Autopilot and the Model 3. And she had made 2 recommendations to Elon and Tesla to improve the performance of the Model 3. So one was having a more sensitive auto wiper. And I've actually had this experience myself where today here in South Florida, it's actually raining on the drive home. And the rain was hard enough where it takes time for the wipers to really detect enough water from the pressure and the speed of the vehicle to then engage the wipers. So sometimes you have to turn them on manually first before the car actually does it automatically. So that's one thing. And the second thing was to see if Autopilot can read turn signals now that it can sense the cars in the left or right lanes around you, to see if it can detect when cars are trying to merge in front, so that your car is able to adjust with the tach more proactively than it is reactively. So Elon's response to that tweet was coming soon. So again, what that means, we don't know. This is tweeted back on June 6th, so we're looking about almost 2 weeks ago. But Elon at least said that it is something that they're going to try to work on.
Well, that's good news. I mean, I'm always looking forward to, different enhancements. I mean, we're just scratching the surface as far as this thing is concerned. I actually did a presentation last night to EV Society about Autopilot, and it's basically Autopilot's artificial intelligence, where I basically went in and just kind of explained Tesla's position as using a vision-based system as opposed to a LiDAR-based system. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just putting Tesla's position out there, where he had clarified during the financial call back in February of this year, when one of the analysts had asked him, well, why are you doing a vision-based system as opposed to LiDAR? And basically, Elon said that, we're trying to go down the hard path to do it on a vision-based system because we believe that, I'm paraphrasing here, that it will give us a global whole where other people that are doing LiDAR and they're concentrating on certain urban areas, they're kind of landlocked in some ways. I think that's kind of the gist of what he was saying. So I do believe, I mean, history will prove which one's better than the others, of course. But I think Tesla's really onto some solid ground here. And I've watched enough videos, and those of you who may not be aware of what's going on in the vision-based system, just do a Google search or a YouTube search for NVIDIA CES Drive PX or something to that effect. And the last 2 or 3 CESs, there's some astounding amount of interesting work that's going on in the vision-based systems from NVIDIA. Of course, that's what the system that Tesla's using in their cars. So very informative if you want to go down that rat hole, that's for sure. Okay, moving along. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to maybe the next subject?
If I can just jump in while we're
Please do.
talking about both autopilot and visual tracking, what is everyone's opinion on adding some sort of a driver monitoring? Is something that, like Tesla's been very evasive on that. I mean, I think Elon originally wasn't very impressed with the need to have eye on the road tracking in the system, but you look at what the GM Super Cruise system can do, and I'm wondering, is that something we think that they're actually going to integrate at some point as a backup to the NAG, or even a replacement for it?
Well, it's interesting because, Tesla did put that forward-facing or the cabin-facing camera up in the rear-view mirror housing in all the Model 3s, and of course they're not using it at this point. So I'm sure somewhere in their whiteboarding sessions they said, what if we do this? And they made that decision and, committed to doing it. What they're going to use it for, we really don't know at this point. And it's interesting that Elon actually tweeted out, and he said, because somebody had asked him about the Super Cruise system, where they're doing eye tracking.
Right.
And Elon says, well, we don't think it's, or what did he say? We tried it and it didn't work all that well. So where does that fit in with the camera in the Model 3? Who knows at this point? Maybe this, for something maybe in the future, or maybe he's just being cagey about it. I don't know. I don't think Elon's the kind of guy who would deliberately lie about something. He may put out maybe a half-truth or answer a halfway, but I think in this case he doesn't really know exactly what they're doing. I think they're kind of maybe hedging their bets. History will prove exactly what they're going to do, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, my sense on that is I believe those cameras usually have difficulty with polarized glasses. So right off the bat, big issue for anyone who likes glasses like that, the system's not going to track their eyes. And then they're always going to get nagged or it's going to fail. I always thought that camera was for when you send your car into the Tesla fleet and put your car out there, that you could watch people in your car when you're renting it out. That was always my assumption of what that camera was for. At that point, I'll put a nice piece of tape over it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. We'll see. I mean, on the sunglass front, it's almost dirty girl when you're driving a Model X because, oh my God, you just get blinded. Okay, let's move on. We got another subject here. Have any of you watched Jack Rickard's YouTube channel? He's the older fellow who's got a shop. I think he's in Michigan or Missouri or something like that. Anyways, he got a hold of a Model 3 that was wrecked and proceeded to disembowel the battery pack. And boy, oh boy, is there some interesting stuff in this Model 3 battery pack. There were some illusions, some early pictures of a Model 3 battery pack taken apart by Sandy at Monroe Associates. But Jack really went into detail on this thing. Have you guys ever watched this? I'll put a link into the video or the show description if you guys cared about watching that. But I'll just rattle off some of the stuff that I was able to write down here. Basically, it's a very energy-dense battery pack at 222 watt-hours per kilogram. There's 4,416 cells per pack, or 1,150 modules, 1,150 cells per module, I should say. The Model 3 battery pack is 4 modules. It's not 16 like the S and the X are. So we're talking about some very large bricks. And that reminds me a little bit because when they first introduced the 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack on the S and the X, J.P. Straubel, during one of the financial calls, said that they were testing this new cooling mechanism that was eventually going to go into the Model 3, and they were using that as a sort of a test bed. So one of the things they did on the S and the X is that they eliminated a single loop cooling, the single channel cooling loop, if you will, per module, and did 2. It was split. So I believe that's what they're doing on the Model 3. They have much longer, because of the battery packs being, or the battery modules, boy, I'm tongue-tied tonight. Because the battery modules are so much larger, that they're using at least 2 cooling loops per module. So that's interesting. The nominal energy of the battery pack is 80.5 kilowatt hours. So I know a lot of people say it's roughly 75. That might be the actual usable amount, but the nominal amount is 80.5. And he also said that let me see here. As far as the energy density was concerned, compared to a Chevy Bolt, the Bolt's coming in 195 watt hours per kilogram, whereas the Model 3 is 222. So we're talking some super, super dense technology with some new cells and stuff. So this thing has legs. It's incredible. The other thing that they've done too, and I don't have pictures unfortunately, but I'll let you watch the YouTube channel. And this was kind of alluded to as some leaked images a few months ago on the battery pack on the Model 3. But what they're doing is they're integrating the inverters, the cooling modules, the pyrotechnics, all this other stuff is all built into that hump that sits under the passenger seat in the rear. So instead of having all these different electronics spread around the car like the S and the X, they've built it all into the battery pack. So what that does is that it basically allows them for easier manufacturing and easier building of the car, of course. And that's one of the tenets of the Model 3. It has to be easier to build. So, yeah, quite interesting. And this kind of stuff spins my propeller, as a nerd as I am. The other thing that Elon also confirmed, too, that they were looking at getting rid most of their cells are containing about 3% cobalt, and they want to move to zero. They want to get rid of cobalt completely. Now, I'm not a chemist. I don't know what cobalt gives to the battery chemistry or what it actually does. If any of you know, please chime in. But if you do any bit of research, you'll find out that cobalt is mostly coming out of Niger or the Congo, I think, in Africa.
Bad places.
Yeah, bad places. So I think from a political standpoint, that's actually a good way to go. But it just shows that chemistry on the battery front is not standing still. They're definitely doing some improvements there. So, okay, any comments? Go ahead.
I was going to say, what amazes me most about all of this is that first and foremost, Elon said a while ago that the Model 3 batteries are going to be the densest, most efficient batteries that they've ever produced. And so far, we're seeing these numbers trickle out from various sources, but so far it's proven to be correct. But what amazes me more is just in the very short time frame that Tesla has existed as a company, we've seen the advancement of battery technology move in ways that I don't think any other industry could have ever shown, had it not been for the push for sustainable energy and the push for renewable resources. And so to see what Tesla's done with their batteries in the span of 3 different models of cars within a matter of 5, 6, 7 years is just absolutely incredible. And it's only going to continue to improve as more and more cars are produced.
Agreed. I know somebody was asking me a little bit earlier today a question when I did a test feed that they were saying, when do you expect to see, or do you expect to see the 2170 cells eventually in the S and the X? And if you look at Tesla's history, the answer is yes. I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. They do have a lot of projects in the works right now. How far along as far as that's concerned, I don't know. An S and an X refresh have been rumored for a long time, especially in the S front, because the X has only been in production for about 3 years. So it's kind of like mid-cycle at this point. But the S is kind of overdue in some ways. So there's definitely some tech in the Model 3 that's kind of usurping the S and the X, and they did say that the S and the X were going to be the technology leaders. So I think if you put it in that kind of context, we're definitely due for something along those lines. The Tesla semi-truck most assuredly uses the 2170s, and the Roadster, it just makes total sense that they would do that too. So it just makes sense. If you're going to reduce the cost, if you're going to reduce your environmental impact, you can't keep importing from Japan all they have, like they have with Panasonic all these years. So it's no loss to Panasonic, of course, because they're a partner in the Gigafactory. That's where they're making the cells for the 3. So we'll see what transpires there. So we'll leave it at that. We want to take a little bit of a break here and talk about FineLab, who are one of our sponsors here. And did you know that due to recent changes in environmental laws, most modern cars' factory paints are thinner, softer, more fragile than ever before? This is great for the world we all love and share, but not so great for a brand new car showroom, shine. Teslas are no exception to this rule and are extremely susceptible to UV damage, fading, swirl marks, bird droppings, acid rain marks, and other environmental contaminants. But not to worry, as Fine Lab has the answer. Our line of ceramic coatings were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. Fine Lab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the DIYer and the professional detailer. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com. That's spelled FEYNLAB to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. Fine Lab and Tesla, we were meant for each other. Big thank you to our sponsors at Fine Lab. We like their product. I have it on my X. It makes washing super easy. So if you don't have a ceramic coating, definitely check them out, because if you like washing your car like I do, man, it's awesome. So, having said that, let's move on. We got one more little bit here, and of course, this has been making the news a lot. Is this Tesla employee worker at the Gigafactory sabotaging, so to speak, as easily known, and it's really getting messy. I just saw a tweet today that Tesla has hired the prosecutor that was responsible for the Enron scandal. The prosecutor, not the defendant, of course. They've hired this guy to go after this guy. So, yeah. Any thoughts on this, guys?
I mean, obviously, there's two sides to every story. But if you read the Electric article, their take on it, I tend to agree with it. It's this individual's not painting himself in the best light with whatever it is he's trying to achieve or accomplish. So my general sense is I usually side with Tesla. They usually do the right thing, and this feels like another case where they're going to do the right thing, and someone else is upset, and maybe they didn't get the promotion they wanted, or whatever happened, and the truth should come out. But I think everything will be all right on the Tesla side here.
A little bit on the extreme side to be going and hacking into systems, and I mean, man, he's in a world of hurt. I mean,
I'm very curious to see if he's acting alone or if there's somebody else behind him. I mean, that's everyone's been kind of gotten the rumor mill going on this, but I'm very curious to see what happens.
There was some talk, I think, online that he might have been feeding the information to a third party, so there could have been something going on. Like, I mean, it's too early to speculate on this stuff, but I mean, everything's flying around and stuff. But man, if you're looking for a promotion, you couldn't ask for a worse way to be doing this, because now he didn't think this through, obviously, because now he's in a world of hurt. And I would not want to be in his shoes to be doing something like this, because, I mean, not only did he hack Tesla systems and steal the data, but apparently there's some talk, of course, that he might have fed some false information to the media about production and so on and so forth. So he did quite a bit of damage to the company. Now, I did look at the stock; it did take a hit. It's largely recovered, I think. Anybody got the Tesla stock in front of them? But I checked it today and it was mostly back up.
Mid to high 250s.
Right, 347.
Okay, so
sorry, 347. Is that what you said?
347.51 to be exact.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
So,
it was 350 something when I looked at it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as one would want, I mean, the media likes to take these things, and of course, Wall Street's very, very jittery when it comes to Tesla in a lot of ways. But anyways, I still think the short squeeze of the century is certainly coming. Yeah, there's going to be. Do you guys follow the Twitter account Value Analyst?
No.
Oh, you totally should follow that guy. He knows what he's doing. Compared to all the other guys, this guy's been on it like since day one. He's accurate like you wouldn't believe. Plus, he's funny. He's got some good ones. Anyways, let's see here. I want to talk about this little. I think it really comes back to this concept of Tesla making constant changes on their cars as production keeps going. I think a lot of you probably know by now that we had a meetup here in Toronto on last Saturday night. We had over 100 cars show up and over 300 people, so it was big. And I didn't expect this many people. I just thought we'd maybe get half a dozen. I would have been happy. But yeah, it certainly got very big. And one of the things that I had an opportunity to actually see was an owner who came up to me and he says, "I want to show you something on the car." I thought, okay, sure. And what he showed me was in the trunk area of the Model 3, when you open the lift gate, right at the bottom of the window, there's of course, the seal that goes around the opening, the inner seal, I should speak. And underneath the trunk lid, there's a stretch of metal, of course, that goes from one side to the other. And on his car, there was no cladding there. It was just bare metal. And he said, you just run your finger along it, but very, very careful because it'll cut you. And I could certainly feel it. And his buddy said, yeah, I wanted to show you that because come look at mine. Now, of course, this guy that had no cladding on it, his VIN was, he said around the 17,000. And this other fellow, I went and looked at his car, and it's in the video, by the way, if you want to watch it. I'll put a link in the video here in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. When he opened his trunk lid, Tesla had installed a piece of plastic cladding along the bottom. So, and his number, I think his VIN was like 30,000 or somewhere up there, upper 28,000, something along those lines. Anyways, the point is, Tesla's constantly making changes to the car. And I actually went back and looked at my video footage that I did on the Model 3 that Ken and I did last year in September, and it didn't have the trim piece either. So it's obvious that something changed along the line. and I think for the better, of course, because, that sharp piece of metal. Michael, I think you have you were saying something a little bit earlier about luggage.
Yeah, well, I've actually got two updates on the trunk because there's one other change that I noticed.
You got a whole thread going on the forum about this.
I've got two separate threads now. So one on the trunk piece, I was able to track it down. We found the part number, and my mobile service technician here did order the part for me. And we do have some talk from others who have tried the same, and they've been told there will be a little bit of a delay getting the part, and then others who are told it's not possible to retrofit. So we're a little all over the place, but it seems like I'm gonna get the piece. Certainly, forget cutting your hands. Put some luggage in the trunk. You might scratch your luggage. Removing it, a stroller, golf clubs. It's better all around, and obviously it looks better as well. Visually, though, truthfully, you only notice it if you're lower than the car looking up. But once you know something, you kind of look at it all the time. At least my OCD does that. One other thing I noticed in the vent area between the trunk into the cabin, my car has these white triangular wedges. They're glued down. They're fixtures. They're not just for shipping. And I did a poll because I had never seen another car that had this, and some have it, most don't. So that was another change they did in the trunk. Obviously, they switched to probably a darker foam for vibration dampening that installs differently. But I picked up on that one as well. If you've got a lower VIN, I'm under 6,000. You'll probably have those two white foam wedges in there as well. Don't take those out.
So what did they say? They said that the trim piece is not a retrofit. So if you ask for it, you won't be able to get it if you had a lower VIN?
Right. So we had a few reply to the thread saying that they were advised that they could not have the piece. Some who said that the piece would be ordered for them, but it might take 2 to 3 months to come in. And then my service advisor told me he already ordered it.
Oh.
Now, Michael, did you notice if that's in relation to a particular VIN, where there's certain very low VINs where it wouldn't work, and then maybe as we went up the VIN scale, they were retrofittable?
That I'm not sure. I mean, I'm pretty low, and I'm just under 6,000. So if it's going to work on my car, it probably should work on most of the Model 3s that are out there.
Logically, yes. I'm just thinking if they had super early VINs, if there was some reason why it wouldn't work, I couldn't imagine why. Like, has that cross member really been changed? It doesn't make any sense to me.
The only thing I can think of, and this is just me pure speculation, my service advisor said it was really hard for him to even find the part in the first place. So it might be that the other individuals, their service advisor looked and had the same struggle, but just couldn't find it. And mine dug a little deeper, and he found it for me. So for those maybe who were told no, maybe ask again. Check out on the forum. I do have a post where I show the part number, so that might help as well to share the part number.
Eric, do you have this piece? Have you even checked your car?
I haven't checked my car, so I don't know if it's there or not. It's dark now, so I'll probably take a look at it.
No,
tomorrow.
that's fine. But is your VIN in the same vicinity as Mike's, or is yours a much higher VIN? Like, is it
mine?
roughly?
Mine is just below 13,000, so mine's about twice the number. Again, they've obviously had gaps in the numbers at times, but yeah, mine's about twice as high as.
That'd be interesting because, like I said, the one that I saw was he said it was around a 17,000-ish VIN, And the other car that I saw was sub 30,000, and it certainly had the part. So there seems to be some discussion that this part has been added. I mean, this is not the last time we're going to see this. The parts are going to change, right? It's just the nature of how Tesla does things. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what other things they will change in due time.
I will say though that I seldom use my trunk. I mean, I've gone to Costco and other shopping stores, and I buy a lot amount of stuff, but I don't use my trunk as much as Michael. I know Michael's a husband and a father, so he's obviously got a lot more stuff to haul back and forth. So for me, it's just I just use my car to drive to work every day. But yeah, I don't. I thankfully the times I have put stuff in the trunk, it hasn't been caught or anything or ripped or something like that. So my trunk is nice and clean.
What about your front? What about the front trunk? Do you find yourself using that?
You know what? There's been a couple instances where I wanted to put things in just to see how it would fit, and it never really worked. So the only thing I really keep in my frunk is my pack for my mobile charging kit. That's about it.
Oh, I see.
Well, let me give you the secret trick for the frunk.
Please do.
It is best used for smelly takeout food.
Somebody on the forum uploaded a picture of a pizza in the front trunk.
That's what I use it for. That way you don't get the garlic smell in the car. If you put it in the trunk, you're
not insulated. So if you want to keep you want to meet you go to Costco and you spend $700 on fun meat, whatever, you can just kind of throw it in there. Oh boy. All right, guys. Well, we're getting to the end of this thing. Any final thoughts before we sign off tonight? Anybody want to throw a couple more things at us?
Well, I do want to.
Oh,
go ahead.
Michael.
No, please go ahead.
I hope I'm not putting us down the rabbit hole, and I didn't get a chance to fact check the numbers, but this one's relevant to me because it doesn't fail every day. I start talking about Tesla because it's what I love to do, and somebody says to me, "But those cars catch on fire." Oh God. And I saw an interesting tweet. Again, I didn't fact check the numbers, but it said about 300,000 Teslas sold. A very minuscule percentage of them have caught fire. It was something like 42 or 43 of them, and then took the sales for all other cars that weren't Tesla, and they're about 5 times more likely to catch on fire. So I always, I try to find a jokingly way when somebody says to me, "I'm just worried about you. You have a Tesla," and I say, "Well, I'm just worried about you. You don't have a Tesla." Gas burns also, not just batteries. So
you do realize you're driving around with 15 gallons worth of highly volatile fuel in your tank, right?
Exactly. So I just felt like sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called an internal combustion engine. The key word: combustion.
or if you had an early 70s Pinto, an external combustion.
What was that movie, the one with Val Kilmer, where they showed a Pinto, somebody just kissing the bumper and the car exploded? I forget what that movie was. Top Secret. Wasn't it Top Secret with Val Kilmer?
Maybe it's Top Secret, but Real Genius is a classic too.
Oh, yeah, I got to watch that one again. Well, guys, we're going to call it a night. So what I wanted to offer you is...
We haven't talked about the performance model once.
Oh, no. Well, like I said,
podcast?
In Canada, a lot of us are still waiting for this. And one of my buddies is just like constantly asking for Elon on updates on this thing. And yeah. So Jay, keep the faith. I know he was telling me privately, I'm getting fed up. I might go buy a Porsche. And I said, no, dude, you're going to regret that. Don't be doing that. So I talked him off the ledge. I think. So anyways, Jay, if you're listening, keep the faith, buddy. Keep the faith. It'll be coming soon. Anyways, with that, we'll leave it like that. And so everybody, you want to give us a little bit of a plug there? Eric, where can people find you on the internet if they want to talk to you?
So sure. Real things first, though, I do want to thank our sponsors. It's fantastic. Thank you to our Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. Thank you for all the followers, all the likes, all the commenters. You guys really help us keep going. You guys can follow me on Twitter at ECFix. That's ECFIX. Again, that's on Twitter.
Excellent. Michael, how about you? Where can people find you?
Well, I'll do the same thing. I'd like to say thank you to Trev, of course, for organizing this, putting together, and working through the technical difficulties we've had. It's been tough, but we're finally there. You guys can find me on Twitter and YouTube. I've got a brand new name. It's all just happening. It started today, and it is Tesla Tunity, like Tesla Opportunity. Put them together. It's a Tesla Tunity.
Yes, please make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's actually doing some really good videos. Very useful.
Yeah, they're excellent. I'll vouch for that.
Thank you.
Ian, last but not least, where can people find the Model 3 wheel expert on the interweb?
Well, there's a few possibilities. If you go to Model 3 Owners Club forum, you'll find me under the handle Mad Hungarian. There's any question you have about wheels and tires. That's kind of my wheelhouse. Get it, wheelhouse. And I'd be happy to respond either to a private message or any public discussion. We have an ongoing technical thread for any wheel and tire questions, so there's lots of juicy stuff going around there. You can also find me on Twitter at Ian Pavelko, or just look up Mad Hungarian, and you'll either get me or the baseball player, but usually me. I didn't even know that was a thing. And this is a reference to Gumball Rally. That's where I got the handle from. And my boss, who's called me the Mad Hungarian for 30-odd years, well, just because...
That's where your Twitter profile comes from. Picture.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, that's exactly. Yes, anyone who knows the Gumball Rally would recognize the picture.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, you can always head over to teespring.com, the custom T-shirt shop, and look
Absolutely.
up Mad Hungarian. And you'll see Mad Hungarian's Evolve Wear, and that's where I have my little campaign going to sell the Evolve T-shirts, which you might have seen around. Again, a huge shout out to all the owners who've been wearing those to the delivery events. That is so gratifying for me to see. It's a great cause. It raises money for 3 different organizations. We have LAVEC in Quebec, Electromobility Canada, and in the US, Plug in America are all each getting a cut of the profits on this. And I have to say, just since the podcast, we've been running the podcast, I've sold another 40 shirts. We're up to 450
Awesome.
shirts sold in this program. And it's going like wildfire. Now, one last thing. A few people have written in and said that, hey, I can't get a certain shirt in a certain color. This is because the supplier on my shirts was American Apparel, and they went Chapter 13 last month. I just got this from Teespring. So we're in the process of rolling that over to a new supplier sometime within the week. That should be resolved. So if you're waiting for a particular size or color, please be patient. I'll put an announcement out on the forum, and I'll tweet it out so everybody knows. But
Excellent. Great. Thanks for that. And for those of you who are interested in his shirts, I'll put a link in the video description. You can check out all of his stuff. I love his shirt. I wear it. I wore it at the car show on Sunday, and people are always commenting about that because it says Evolve on the back. What does that mean? Well, let me tell you.
And this is why there was so much content for you during the broadcast, because you needed all the time at the end to talk about all your social media handles.
yes, pretty much the case.
Well, that's the end of this show for this week, folks. Make sure you follow us. My handle on Twitter is at Model3Owners, and you can check out our forum at Model3OwnersClub.com. And as Eric mentioned, if you want to keep the channel going, we'd appreciate it if you take a look at our Patreon page, and you can find that at patreon.com/Model3OwnersClub. That's it for this week, folks, and we will catch you next week, same time, same channel. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.